From jokes to ridiculous remarks, check out some of the amazing final comments from people who were about to be executed. In the winter of 1976, the country was all abuzz about Gary Gilmore, a convicted Utah murderer who was demanding his own death. Gary, a career criminal, had killed 2 people in 2 days during the summer of '76. One was a gas station attendant and the other a motel manager. The jury convicted Gary and unanimously recommended the death penalty. At that time, Utah had 2 options for execution: hanging and firing squad. Gary chose the firing squad. He became the first person to be executed after the U.S. reinstated the death penalty in 1976. When the time finally came for Gary to die before the firing squad, he was brought to an old cannery behind the prison and strapped to a chair. It was there when Gary issued his famous last words, "Let's do it." Immediately after his death, Gary's corneas were donated to awaiting recipients per his request. James D. French, who was executed on August 10, 1966, was an American criminal who was the last person to be executed under Oklahoma's death penalty laws prior to Furman v. Georgia. He was the only prisoner executed in the United States that year. Already in prison for life, but allegedly afraid to commit suicide, French murdered his cellmate, apparently to compel the state to execute him. French had been credited with these famous last words before his death by electric chair. How's this for a headline? French fries. When Marie Antoinette died under the heavy blow of the guillotine on October 16, 1793, it was a decidedly unglamorous affair. That's not to say that it wasn't a celebration. Many French revolutionaries were ecstatic to bid the extravagant queen adieu forever. Her hair was cut off, and she was driven through Paris in an open cart while wearing a plain white dress. After the blade came down, the executioner brandished Marie Antoinette's head in a triumphant wave so that the entire crowd could see it. However, it was a disappointment for the thousands of people who were gathered to watch the scene. They'd wanted to see the 38-year-old woman quake in her fear and cower penitently. A well-known 18th century journalist and revolutionary, Jacques Hebert, wrote in a newspaper, Le Pierre du Chêne, that she was bold and impudent to the very end. It is claimed that she maintained her composure even till her death. Her last words were, "Forgive me, sir, I meant not to do it," spoken to Henry Sanson, the executioner, whose foot she had accidentally stepped on after climbing the scaffold. One of the most popular of Napoleon's marshals was undoubtedly Michel Ney, who was affectionately known to his troops as Les Rogards, due to the color of his hair. So how could this man, who was later known as the bravest of the brave, be executed in a Paris public park? Following the defeat at Waterloo, Ney was hunted down and arrested. After being taken into custody, he was tried for treason and found guilty. He was sentenced to be executed by firing squad near the Luxembourg Garden on December 7, 1815. When he was offered one last wish, Ney decided on one that was very unusual. He asked to command his own firing squad. During his execution, Ney refused to wear a blindfold and insisted upon giving the order to fire himself. His final words were reportedly delivered as follows: "Soldiers, when I give the command to fire, fire straight at my heart. Wait for the order. It will be my last to you. I protest against my condemnation. I have fought 100 battles for France, and not one against her. Soldiers, fire." Vincent Gutierrez, 28, was executed by lethal injection on March 28, 2007 in Huntsville, Texas for the carjacking murder of a 40-year-old man. Gutierrez, who was believed to have suffered from bipolar disorder, said goodbye with a pinch of humor. His last words were, "I would like to tell everyone that I'm sorry about the situation that happened. My bad. Everybody is here because of what happened, and I'd like to thank everybody that's been here through the years. The little kids overseas, they really changed me. Sister Doris, Mom, brothers, sister, Dad, I love you all. My brother, where's my stunt double when you need one? My Lord is my life and Savior, and nothing shall I fear." Another death row inmate with a sense of humor chose to use a pun as his final words. Convicted murderer George Apple's final words before being executed in the electric chair in New York in 1928 were, "Well, gentlemen, you are about to see a baked apple." Prisoners on America's death row were traditionally allowed anything they would like to eat for a last meal before they are executed. One inmate took this right to an almost petty level. Thomas J. Grasso was executed in 1995 for using Christmas tree lights to strangle an 85-year-old woman. His bizarre last meal request was for 2 dozen steamed mussels with 2 dozen steamed clams, flavored by a wedge of lemon, a double cheeseburger from Burger King, a half dozen barbecued spare ribs, 2 strawberry milkshakes, 1/2 of a pumpkin pie with whipped cream, diced strawberries, and a 16-ounce can of SpaghettiOs with meatballs served at room temperature. The length and complexity of his list confused the kitchen staff, who just seemed to leave out the SpaghettiOs and served him spaghetti instead. Grasso's last words were, "I did not get my SpaghettiOs, I got spaghetti. I want the press to know this." Carl Panzer was an American serial killer, rapist, arsonist, and burglar who was hanged on September 5, 1930. He is known for his confession to his only friend and prison guard, Henry Lesser. In graphic detail, Panzer confessed to 22 murders and to having sodomized over 1,000 males, even adding, "For those things I am not the least bit sorry." Panzer was sentenced to death. He refused to appeal and even threatened to kill members of human rights groups who attempted to appeal on his behalf. When they put the noose around his neck, he allegedly spat in his executioner's face and declared, "I wish the entire human race had one neck, and I had my hands around it." When asked by the executioner if he had any last words, Panzer barked, "Yes, hurry it up, you Hoosier bastard. I could hang 12 men while you're screwing around." That's all we have for today's episode. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe for more. If there's anything in particular you would like to see in the future, comment it in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, let us know. What do you fear?